Hello, my name's Sam. This is a video on using Zoom as a host. It will go through some of the basic security settings just to help keep your meetings safe and secure. It will also go through some of the features of Zoom and how to use them when presenting meetings. And then I will finish off by talking about and suggesting a particular thing that you look at for better settings. Okay, so when you hit your home screen in Zoom, once you've set up your account, you have your home page, a chat, meetings and contacts. Your contacts are just the same as they are in any other type of program. You just set them up and it makes it easier to start meetings with those people. Chat is your own personal chat room. So here we go. So this is what a chat room looks like. People can talk to you about meetings provided they have your contact. You can block them from your chat anyway. So that's what that is. It's useful if you're running a little bit late, as I was on this particular session. Then you've got meetings. Your meetings will just list all of the meetings that you've got, and you can copy those invitations and email them out if you've forgotten to do so before. Right, so you can just start a meeting from here, although I would recommend you always use schedule, and we'll come to that in a minute. You can join a meeting if you already know another user with Zoom is having a meeting that you're invited to, and you'll just need the meeting ID and the password. And that's one of the important things is the meeting ID, because if you don't have password protection on that, and you always use the same meeting ID, it's a lot easier for people to jump into your meetings. So always schedule a meeting. So when you press on the schedule, you will get a thing like this, and it will come up with your name, Zoom meeting. You can choose the date, time, you can even set the duration if you want. Have your personal ID number. Now your personal ID number is the same number all the time, and the problem comes is that people don't know about this and they don't use passwords, so anybody with their personal ID can enter any meeting that they have. So don't do it. Generate a meeting ID automatically, and that creates a meeting ID for every single meeting you have, which is unique to that one meeting. Also, stick a password on it. You can have a numerical password just to add that level of security. The video, you can sort that out in the session. Go with computer audio. Don't look at the telephone and computer audio situation. The costs of phoning into these kind of things are horrendous. You can schedule a meeting into Outlook, Google Calendar or other calendars. I've done it on other calendar just here. And then this is really important. Advanced options. Enable the waiting room. Nobody can get into the meeting from the waiting room unless you move them in there yourself. And that's the simplest security tool. Mute them on entry. We'll look at that a little bit later. Only authenticated users. That's a really good idea to tip that. That means they have to have a Zoom account before they can even come into your meeting. Then you would press schedule and you would get, either going into the calendar or with other calendars, this. And from here, this is how you can then invite people into your meeting. So this hyperlink should be embedded with the meeting ID and password. So those people with that would then type that in, click that, and they should enter into the waiting room ready. Sometimes it will also ask for their ID or password ID, and it's this information here. If you already have a Zoom account, you can just use that information to join that relevant meeting. So that means everybody has to be invited by you to join your meeting, and that's quite key. So let's just go push that back out of the way. Okay, so normally I say schedule a meeting. It's okay because I'm going to be the only person in this meeting. Right, so I'm awfully sorry about the camera thing. It's because my camera's being used for recording this video, so I'm having to use the other camera for the Zoom meeting. So it's going to look a little bit weird, but here we go with inside the meeting. So manage participants. When you click on that, you'll have your participants who are in your meeting here. If they're in the waiting room, it will show you in your waiting room and it will list who they are, and then you can bring them into the meeting. They can't come in from the waiting room without you. Chat, nice little feature. Just move this out of the way. You can type into chat away, and that will go to everybody. We'll look at some settings for that in a little bit, in a minute. Okay. Then you also have an invite. You can invite people into the meeting as you go. Down here, I can stop my video, so I can turn it off, and there's that my ugly mug. I can even turn my microphone off, so people wouldn't hear me. Now, being able to mute microphones is quite useful. We'll look at you controlling that for your participants in a minute. Video and audio can take quite a lot of bandwidth, so reducing the number of people using their audio and video at any one time will help your meeting flow and have less demand on the internet. So you have the ability to record your meetings onto your computer, which is quite a useful thing that you can share at some other point. You turn your chat on and off, and your participant on and off. I tend to have those open all the time because they're very useful. You can also, this is sharing screen options, so only one participant. Do not have multiple participants. There's options, advanced ones you can look at, where only the host can share, which is quite sensible. But what's really sensible is that only the host can start the screen sharing. So if a participant says, "Oh, I'd like to share my screen," only the host can do that. They can't just show you their screen. And only one participant can share a screen at a time. It's probably, but just because of the people I'm currently working with, I'm happy for all participants, but in reality, it's sensible to choose only host. You can change that in the meeting, so choose only host as your standard setting. Right, screens. Well, then you'll be able to choose either your screens. Now, obviously, I've got 3 screens on my computer here, so I can click those screens. That's what it is at the moment. Or you can actually do it as a program. So this is an application of PowerPoint. I could do that, and now the PowerPoint will be the thing once I click the share. So the screen will now be showing the PowerPoint and all of the slides along the way. And when I want to, I can just stop sharing that. And I come back to here. You can have my ugly mug if you want it, but it's on the wrong camera, so let's not bother. So the participants list will have all your participants, and because we're going to look at those settings in a minute, you'll see their cameras and their microphones. Now we're going to set it up in such a way that you can unmute them and they can't unmute themselves. If you know the people in your meeting, then let them be able to unmute themselves. That's absolutely fine. So in a session, that's how you'd use it. It's useful to know that your connection is being encrypted. And that's, you can go to full screen. I tend not to, because when I'm not in full screen, it's easier for me to keep the chat and the participants list open. Because if you have a lot of participants, you can actually have it that they can raise their hands so that you know they want to say something, and you can then lower their hands or go to them. So now I'm just going to look again at the settings. So that's it in the meeting. You can also, sorry, I should have said, set up breakout rooms if you've got a lot of people. Not many people do that, as teachers do. If you want to know more about that, then just read about it in the Zoom literature, not Zoop. Right. So end that meeting. We don't worry too much about that. Okay. Now then, once you've done your settings, you will have the option to go to more settings. That will take you over to where you'll have to log in, and this is the important thing to do. So you have your profile, information about yourself, meetings, we won't worry about that. You can also see any recordings that you've made, although it's sensible to download your recordings to your own system. Right, start meetings with the host video on, that's fine. Participants start meetings with the participant video on. I'd have that turned off. It doesn't really matter, but you can turn it on. Just stick with computer audio. Join before the host, no. Use a personal meeting ID when scheduling a meeting, no. This is where we talked about generate a particular meeting ID. Only authenticated users can join the meeting. Now if you click that, they need to have a Zoom account. Otherwise they have to connect with the security that you've given them, and I've set it down that I've got them, because I've got that open, that they have to have a password, and the password is required for instant meetings as well. But also all meetings require a password for all meetings using, and only meetings, well, I don't tend to use instant meetings, but have that, all meetings need a password. Okay, embed the password in the link for one-click join. So if you have that hyperlink sent out, that means the password's in it. If I unclick that, that means not only do they click that hyperlink, they then have to put the password in. Nice and safe. We're not worried about people joining by phone. Mute participants on entry, yes. We'll look at that later a little bit more, but that's really quite important. Encryption, chat. Prevent participants from saving chat. I save that as a tutor, and then I can send it out to people if they want. It does it as a note. I would have that set that only you save the chat, in case there's anything that you don't want or unprofessional in that particular chat. I don't allow people to send private one-to-one chat, so people in the meeting could chat to each other without you knowing about it. Don't turn it on. Auto-saving chats, we're not worried about that. Play when the people leave, doesn't really matter. Now, file transfer, you can turn that off so you can't share any files. I tend to have it on because I want it, but if you're talking with people you don't talk to very often, turn it off. Find another way of sending them files. I'm going to put it back on for myself. You can actually also specify what file types you will use. So, co-host, if you're using it, that's a useful thing, but we don't worry about that. It's not a security issue. Show Zoom windows, showing screen share. We don't really need to worry about that. You can set that on or not. Right, this is the important one, screen sharing. Who can share? Well, I'm happy with all participants, for the most part, host only. You can set that once again in your meeting, but the really important thing is, if you do have it, that the host is the person that starts that screen sharing. Don't let somebody come in and just share their screens because they might have some rude pictures on their computer. Right. Disable desktop or screen share in a meeting and only allow selected applications. If you're a bit concerned about screen share, turn that on and then it just stops it for everybody. Annotating allows people to use your whiteboard, which you can save. Remote control. During screen sharing, the person who is sharing can allow others to control the shared content. No. That is basically handing over remote control of someone's computer, so you just do not do that ever. Make sure that is turned off. Now then, allow removed participants to rejoin. You can remove people when you've got those participants. If they're causing trouble, you can remove them from the meeting, and this means that they cannot rejoin without you letting them back in. People can rename themselves, that's up to you. Breakout rooms, fine. These are all about closed captions, subtitling. So we're not worried, we don't worry about any of that. Everything else is fine, but we come down to the bottom one here, almost the bottom, waiting room. So the waiting room is all participants. That means when somebody comes into a meeting, they go into the waiting room. They cannot get into the meeting until you move them. It's quite safe that way. Is there anything else? Yep. So that's everything then set up, and with all of that, your meeting should be a lot more. And now then, there's a link, and this is really quite important that you can Google it. I have a YouTube channel. You can contact me on that, and I will send you this link if you need it. This is how to keep uninvited guests out of your Zoom event. It was zoom.us WordPress, so it should be easy enough to find for yourself. There's the hyperlink. It's www.blog.zoom.us/wordpress/2020/03/keep-uninvited-guest-out- So, and this will help you with your settings in a lot more depth than I've gone into here, and it is pretty useful with lots of interesting information that will help keep your meeting secure. So muting participants is very good. The host can do that and stops only you can unmute them. Well, that's it for this video. If there are any questions, please leave some comments behind. That's that horrible thing that YouTubers say. Please leave a like or subscribe and you'll get more rubbish from me. Right, well, thank you very much. Goodbye.